Your wish has finally come true. I am back today to review the new Dumbo 2019's Disney live action remake. And I want to get started about like what I think of the original because I went back to see it because I really didn't remember much about it, and it's been like so long since I've seen it. It's not one that I go back to a lot. It's it's very emotional, depressing, uh, while also just being simple and just like it's literally like an hour long. So I really just don't feel like I need to watch it much. It's just not. It's never been one of my favorites. I love the character of Dumbo. He's adorable, but uh, really like it's never done much for me. So, but I had a lot of hope for this remake, mostly because of what they've done with the past remakes, adding more depth to the same stories. Uh, like what they did with Beauty and the Beast, expanding upon Belle's backstory. It just makes it more fleshed out in a way that animated films typically try to condense themselves to a shorter runtime. Specifically, Dumbo, with it being an hour, I wanted to actually have a Dumbo story. So I was excited to get that. The trailers looked promising. The cast was promising. Michael Keaton, Danny DeVito. Um, so really, like my brief thoughts on the original. It's very enjoyable, but it's never really done it for me in terms of just one of my favorites. And this one, I didn't expect it, but it's actually like 75% of it's actually like a sequel. It's mostly a sequel. However, there is some elements of a remake in there as well. Um, Obviously, that they used to market it because it technically was called a remake, but I'd say this is a sequel, or just a retelling, because it does feature like the first 20 minutes kind of tells the story of Dumbo being born to baby Jumbo by the stork, and then and then he has big ears, as you know, and he gets made fun of for that, and his mom tries to stick up for him and ends up being locked away and called mad, and he has to sneak out and like meet with her, and it's depressing and everyone's crying and all that stuff. So yeah, all that stuff is still in there. Um, and then he finds a magic feather and learns he can fly, and that makes him special. And then that's where we leave off. The circus starts to like promote that as his special gift and what they have as a treasure. So that's where we leave off, and Dumbo's mom is set free, and then they get to like tour together. So this one is a completely different take on it. I really like that what they did with it. It is a Tim Burton film, so I'll get into it a little bit more. But I think overall, like he's kind of hit or miss. I mostly am comparing this to like his other stuff that's like targeting a kid's demographic, because that can change like the type of filmmaker you are. Um, Really, like, I mean, Nightmare Before Christmas, even though he didn't direct it, he was kind of like heavily involved with like his creation. Uh, I love Nightmare Before Christmas. It's great. Let's see, Alice in Wonderland, the live action remake. I've seen few parts of it. I've heard it's very weird. I honestly don't care to watch it. Um, then like a lot of other movies like that, I just know typically his style is kind of twisted and odd. So I kind of wondered if he was going to make it overly depressing or emotional, but for the most part, I think he did a good job keeping to the source material but expounding upon it and making it something a completely different tale. Um, there are a few parts that I think was like his kind of twist, where it kind of gets, there's this element that's kind of like reminds me a little bit for Night Before Christmas, just like that feeling of Halloween, like the Nightmare Alley exhibit at the futuristic circus that they go to. It's very like this is very kind of Tim Burton-esque. This kind of took like a creepy turn, just like out of nowhere. But yeah, let's see. Um, yes, there's some weirdly dark moments, and also just getting on that. This like I in a way I wouldn't recommend this for little kids, or at least like a really young age. I think it could be kind of upsetting and kind of it was scary based on that one scene, and like animals are dressed up and everything and painted to look kind of like monsters, and then it like the lights go out and you see monsters crawling around. Kind of that's that like Tim Burton-esque scene. I think they can find that scary. I'll go ahead and say that because I mean this was supposed to be kind of like targeted towards kids or family friendly audience, and also there's some language in it, which I was surprised about. I don't know why Disney's doing that now. It's annoying. Uh, let's see, and also just how like the main like kind of elements of abuse in it, like the animal rights movement of the movie. I'll get into that a little bit later, but I thought it was handled well. But it is kind of upsetting to see some of the animals the way they're treated and abused. And Baby Dumbo, poor Baby Dumbo being abused is not a good sight because that's the first thing I'm going to talk about. They made him super adorable. The CGI Dumbo is like the one of the most like innocent, like emotional characters I've ever seen in my life. Like when he was being abused, I wanted to crawl through the screen and beat those people up because he was like, I was feeling his pain and it was killing me to watch that poor little baby elephant. It was very effective, and I think the animation looks stunning on him. Though I like the way they stylized him because originally I was like, I don't want a Dumbo, I don't want a realistic elephant that flies. That'll be really creepy. But the way they styled him, he has bigger eyes, obviously his ears. They kind of made it like a photorealistic animated character in that in that sense. So I think it worked well for that. So it wasn't too like, oh my gosh, it's a real life elephant that's flapping its ears and flying. That'd be weird. So I think they did good with the animation and the visuals in it. Is very like the circus setting, all the colors and everything is very appealing. Uh, Especially me being an art major, I thought the art direction was really well thought out and planned. Um, that's probably one of my biggest positives about it. The movie character performances. A lot of the characters was the most common criticism. They're very flat. Like I think this suffers from the typical, in some cases, where movies are trying to be somewhat adult but also appealing to kids, where they can't really be major plot twists because they kind of dumb it down for kids. The language that they use, or the dialogue that they use, and like their interactions with characters, and like the villain is like just this mustache twirling villain because they can't have something super like in depth, or the kids wouldn't like get anything out of it. That's typically something that things suffer from, and I think this suffers from it. Michael Keaton did a good job playing him. I just think the writing for the villain, he's the villain by the way. I didn't mention that. I thought he could have been written a little bit better and designed a little bit better in terms of like his motivation. I thought Danny DeVito did a really good job. His character goes through the biggest character arc, I'd say. He ends up being the hero in the end, and starts out kind of like, just a ringmaster, kind of like a villainous role from Dumbo's perspective, because obviously he's making fun of Dumbo. Uh, yeah, there's a lot of other characters that they added because, like I said, basically the original was just basically about Timothy the Mouse and Dumbo and their adventures, and there's bags, and they happen to be in a circus, so there's people walking around talking randomly. So that's mostly it. So they added a lot of people to actually have a story fleshed out, which was once again good. Baby Mine, the song that they use to like basically melt people's hearts in the original, which is what is being played when Baby Dumbo goes to see his mom and she rocks him in his trunk, and it's very upsetting. This one, they dumbed it down, and I think it was good. It wasn't overly emotional or depressing. I was so prepared to get very emotional. I didn't. It was very sad still, but mostly because Dumbo being so adorable, I was like, no, I don't want to see him like that. But yeah, I thought it was handled very well, that song, as well as the pink elephants on parade. Okay, so drunk Dumbo is not a thing in this movie. They joke about it. It is a thing in the original, and they do not sugarcoat it. He actually does get drunk. He hallucinates for about 10 minutes in this song, Pink Elephants on Parade. And in this version, they changed it up a lot. I liked what they did with it. There's a circus scene and like the balloon, the the bubbles that they blow. It's kind of like it kind of can be seen as Dumbo's hallucination because I don't know how in the world they get bubbles to do that, but whatever. They form these scenes of elephants on parade, like the song says, but not really. It's just pink elephants kind of following each other and just like doing things, and Dumbo's bobbing his head. I liked it to the tune of the original, so I like that. So yeah, they wouldn't do Drunk Dumbo. I knew that, but yeah. So they do make a joke about it, which is kind of funny. Um, let's see. I'm looking back at my notes. Callbacks to the original. Apart from that, the train theme, the Casey Juniors coming down the track thing, the tune, just that's worked throughout the original animation. I really found that fun as a little nod, worked throughout the movie. Um, let's see. Pink elephants, joke about Drunk Dumbo. Okay, Timothy Mouse, the character that I told you was the main character in the original, and the reason that he's kind of Dumbo's friend, even though he loses like hope. He's like the one that kind of picks him up. He's the good friend, and yeah, he's non-existent in this. He has a cameo. You can tell it's him, or it was intended to be him. It's just a mouse in a suit with a hat on, and you're like, hey, that's Timothy, and then he just goes away and he doesn't do anything. So we don't see him again. So it's fine. That bothered some people. It didn't bother me. Part of that's probably because I'm not as attached as some people are to the original source material. But yeah. Also, the animals don't talk whatsoever in this, which is kind of different for Disney. Typically, like Jungle Book, they make their animals talk. But really, in Dumbo, like Dumbo doesn't speak, but Timothy does. So technically, it's still a talking animal thing. But in this one, you saw it from Dumbo's perspective, which I really liked. However, it was just like a realistic standpoint where he's just an elephant that happens to have big ears. He doesn't talk. They don't talk. The animals don't talk to each other. So you just like see it from his perspective. I thought that was neat and a mature route to take it. Because obviously, if you made them talk, then that kind of would take away the realism out of it. So yeah, going back to the animal abuse plotline, or animal rights. Basically, they in the movie, which I liked, which I heard, I was like, I hope they don't get too preachy with it. Like, I'm all for animal rights. Obviously, the Dumbo like upset the crap out of me watching this when he's abused, and I've never supported what they do in circuses, treating animals like that. But the way that they handle it, I think it's very subtle while being at the same time, like, you can clearly tell that's what they're going for. Basically, Dumbo, his mom, and all the animals in their circus, their home circus, after the final, not battle, final battle, the final act of the movie, after they defeat the villain and Dumbo, everything's happy again. Dumbo's reunited with his mom. They set them free, and they basically play it off like we don't know. They're like introducing the flying elephant, and then it's a dude dressed up as his elephant, and then it's kind of like a promotional material, like a commercial, I guess you could say, for the circus. But then Danny DeVito's character is like, we let our animals go. We will no longer play a part in the cruelty that went on at the villain circus, and because they saw what was like to really what they were doing, like abusing animals like that. So they let Dumbo and his mom go free, and we see them in the wildlife reserve living with their own kind. And so yeah, they were like most basically they like made clear that it's wrong. Animals should not be treated like this, and it's not what was intended when God created them to be abused like that. So so they release all the circus animals to their wildlife habitats. So I thought that was neat. That was a cool spin. I think it was a good way to close off the Dumbo story, because instead of just having them, after this big adventure, him suddenly be loved because of his ears and just go back to the circus and live there and still be a circus act. I thought that would like ruin what they were trying to set up. So I thought that was really good. The kids having to say goodbye to Dumbo was once again emotional. You have baby Dumbo. He doesn't understand all these kids that trained him how to fly, who, oh yeah, that was another change. They actually trained him how to fly, which made sense. He still needed a feather to fly. They still didn't explain it, but it's Disney, it's magic, so that's fine. I don't need an explanation. Anyways, I would like one, but I don't think they could explain it. It's just a magic feather. So, what else is there? So yeah, I thought that was handled nicely. Really, I think that's about it. I'd probably say rating-wise, I'd probably give it a 7.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. As a massive Disney fan like I am, I think it's better than the animation. That's coming from someone that isn't closely attached to it. I've heard a lot of people say the animation is like the greatest thing ever. It's good. It's entertaining, but I mean, it's a classic animation. I'm not under the artistic measures of it is pretty cool. It's one of the first animated films ever made by Disney. So obviously it has that going for it back in 1940. But as a story, I've never really connected with it. In terms of comparison to other live action remakes, I'd probably say it's my third favorite behind Cinderella and Beauty and the Beast. I love what they did with Cinderella. I thought Cinderella was great. Kate Blanchett as Lady Tremaine was great. And I love me some villains, and she played it perfectly. Beauty and the Beast. If you haven't been following my channel, I love Beauty and the Beast. And I mean, Belle, Emma Watson as Belle, like that was my dream come true. So yeah, Dumbo, I'd say it's really good. I would definitely recommend it. Even if you don't see it in theaters, I definitely recommend you see it on streaming, DVD. I'd definitely say give it a chance if you are slightly entertained by the original. I think you'd like it. And I don't agree with all the critics say. I get that there's a lot of issues, mostly probably in the flat characterization of the other characters besides Dumbo. There were a few moments when I think that when Dumbo wasn't on screen, and I was like, oh, that Dumbo is so cute. That and you felt things from him that sometimes the human characters kind of fell flat, but are just stereotypical roles. But yeah, I'd probably say that's about it. So yeah, stay tuned for my channel. I'm coming back. This is my first video in like 2 years, even though I said I was going to be making them frequently. Things happened. I kept pushing it off. I had all these notes, and I was like, I'm finally going to get back on track. So I know for a fact, no matter what, I'm going to review Avengers Endgame. I'm going to review Aladdin, Lion King, give some thoughts of news about like Mulan, the upcoming live action remake, and all Disney movies especially. But yeah, so I'm really curious to hear what you have to say, because this movie's been very divisive in terms of fans versus critics. So yeah, feel free to drop a comment, subscribe, and see you later.